My name is Jenny Harper. I'm 34 years old, a registered nurse at St. Michael Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. People often assume that nurses are calm under pressure, that we know how to handle emergencies, that we can fix anything. But there are nights that no amount of training can prepare you for. This is the story of the night I lost my daughter, and the moment I saw a father truly fail his child. I met Ethan Caldwell when I was 24. Back then, he was charming, ambitious, always smiling like the world had already chosen him to win. He sold houses with the same confidence he sold dreams, and I believed him. For a while, we built what looked like a picture-perfect family. A little house in Decatur, a baby girl named Lily, laughter in the kitchen. But behind the smiles, there were debts, lies, and the steady rhythm of dice rolling on casino tables. Ethan's gambling started small, friendly games, weekend trips. Then came the excuses, the missing paychecks, the nights he didn't come home. I tried to hold the marriage together, telling myself he just needed help, that love could fix him. But love can't compete with addiction. 3 years ago, I finally left, with Lily's tiny hand in mine and a heart cracked wide open. Lily was 8. She had type 1 diabetes, diagnosed when she was only 3. Managing her blood sugar was a full-time job, insulin pumps, carb counting, alarms at 3 a.m. Every weekend, by court order, she stayed with her father. And every Sunday night, I waited by the window, praying she'd return home safe. Each time she did, there was something new. A bruise, a scrape, once even a broken rib from falling off the couch. I begged the court to reconsider custody, but they said, "A child needs her father." They didn't see the way she flinched when the word weekend came up. They didn't hear the silence in her voice when I asked how it went. Still, I tried to believe that keeping things civil was best for her, that avoiding conflict would somehow keep her safe. That night proved how wrong I was. I thought I was protecting her by keeping peace. I was wrong. If you're still listening, we want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with us. Truly means a lot. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this message has reached. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing it now so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. These aren't just ordinary stories. They're filled with meaningful life lessons that can inspire, teach, and stay with you long after the video ends. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. It was past 11 on Friday, March 12th. I had just turned off the kitchen light and was heading toward my bedroom, the quiet hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the house. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, its vibration breaking through the silence. I almost ignored it, until I saw the caller ID. It was Mia, the mother of Lily's best friend. When I answered, her voice was shaking. "Jenny, I don't know what to do. Lily's blood sugar is 480 and climbing. Her insulin pump stopped working." My breath caught. 480? That wasn't just high, it was catastrophic. Lily's pump never failed before, but even so, I always sent her with a backup insulin pen just in case. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "Mia, listen to me carefully. The insulin pen, it should be in her bag. Check the side pocket, the blue case." "I already looked," Mia said, her words tumbling out in panic. "Ethan said everything was in the pump. He didn't leave anything else." My knees gave out, and I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. For a few seconds, the world went silent except for the rushing in my ears. "Oh my God," I whispered. Okay, don't let her sleep, keep her awake. Try to make her drink water. I'll call Ethan right now." I grabbed my keys with one hand and my phone with the other, dialing his number as I ran to the car. The call connected after the third ring, and I was immediately hit by a wave of background noise. Cheers, laughter, the clinking of glasses. The sound of a casino. "Ethan!" I shouted into the phone. "Where are you?" He sounded half drunk, his words slurred with excitement. "Jenny, you won't believe this. I just hit big at the table." "Ethan, stop." I cut him off. "Lily's pump broke. Her blood sugar is over 480. She needs her insulin pen now. You have it with you, don't you?" There was a pause, a short silence where I could almost hear the cards flipping. Then he sighed. "Relax, Jenny. You always overreact. She'll be fine. Just tell them to call an ambulance." My hands were trembling so badly I could barely keep the phone steady. "Ambulances don't carry insulin, Ethan. You know that. You're only 20 minutes away from Mia's house. You can save her if you just go now. In the background, someone laughed, and I could hear chips being stacked on the poker table. His voice came back, louder this time, mixed with irritation. Jenny, I can't just walk away from the table. I'm in a high-stakes game. I've already lost $5,000 tonight. I can't quit now. Just let the professionals handle it. The professionals? I screamed. She's your daughter. She's dying while you're sitting there playing cards. There was another pause, then the sound of a dealer calling bets, followed by Ethan's calm, detached voice. You're being dramatic again. I'll call after this hand. The line went dead. For a moment I sat frozen in the driver's seat, my heart pounding so violently that my chest hurt. The sound of rain began to tap against the windshield, soft at first, then harder, like the world itself was breaking with me. I called him again. Straight to voicemail. Called 3 more times. Nothing. Mia texted me. She's getting worse. She's vomiting. Please hurry. I pressed my foot on the gas, the tires spinning against wet asphalt as I sped down the dark highway. My mind raced faster than the car. Images of Lily, her small hands, her sleepy smile, her voice saying, "Good night, Mommy," flashed like lightning in my head. But then came the memory of Ethan's voice, cool and indifferent. "Call an ambulance." I whispered it out loud, tears streaming down my face. He said, "Call an ambulance." But ambulances don't carry insulin. The road blurred through the rain. I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to wait for him to show up. I was going to drag him out of that casino myself. I changed direction, the car skidding slightly as I turned toward the Cherokee Casino. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Every second felt like a countdown to the end of my world. When I arrived, the parking lot glowed with neon lights reflecting off puddles. I rushed through the glass doors, the air thick with smoke, laughter, and the mechanical chime of slot machines. The contrast was unbearable. People celebrating their luck while my daughter fought for her life. I spotted him almost immediately, sitting at a poker table near the center of the room, a drink in his hand, eyes locked on the cards in front of him. I walked straight toward him, my heartbeat echoing louder than the noise around me. "Ethan!" I shouted. Heads turned. He glanced up, his expression flickering with annoyance more than concern. "Jenny, what are you doing here?" he muttered. "Don't make a scene. Don't make a..." My voice cracked. "Our daughter is dying. She needs her insulin now. Give it to me." The players stared. The dealer froze mid-deal. Ethan leaned back in his chair, lowering his voice. "You're embarrassing me. Just wait 10 minutes. I'll come when I'm done." I grabbed his arm. "You won't have 10 minutes if she slips into a coma." One of the security guards approached, frowning. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to calm down." "Calm down." I turned to him, tears streaming down my face. "Her father has life-saving medication for our daughter, and he refuses to give it to me." The guard exchanged a look with another employee. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't interfere in personal matters. Please step away from the gaming area." Ethan stood up, his face flushed from alcohol and embarrassment. "Jenny, go home. You're overreacting." Something in me broke. I pulled my phone from my pocket, raised it and snapped a photo of him. Cards in one hand, drink in the other, surrounded by chips and flashing lights. I wanted proof. Proof that while our daughter's body was shutting down, this was where he chose to be. People around us started whispering. Ethan cursed under his breath. "You're insane," he hissed. I didn't answer. I turned and ran, pushing past the guards out into the rain. My car door slammed shut, and I floored the accelerator. The casino lights faded behind me like a cruel mirage. That photo, taken under the blinding glow of slot machines, would later become the first piece of evidence in the case against him. At that moment, though, all I could think about was Lily, my little girl, fighting for her life while her father gambled away his soul. And somewhere inside me, a cold realization took root. Ethan hadn't just failed as a father. He had chosen his game over his own blood. I slammed the car door behind me, heart hammering, hands slick with rain as if the storm itself had soaked into my skin. The neon glow of the Cherokee Casino faded behind me, replaced by the dark, empty stretch of highway leading to Mia's house. Every second felt elongated, stretching into an eternity as I imagined Lily struggling, fighting for air, while I was powerless to reach her in time. My foot pressed harder on the accelerator. The rain splattered across the windshield like needles, blurring the streetlights into streaks of gold and red. Every traffic signal felt like a betrayal. Every car ahead of me was an obstacle between me and my daughter. My mind replayed the phone calls, Ethan's laughter, the clinking of chips. I could still hear his words echoing. Call an ambulance. She'll be fine. How could anyone be so calm, so detached, while a child's life hung by a thread? The drive that usually took 20 minutes felt like a lifetime. I thought about all the little things. The tiny socks she wore. The way she used to hum softly when she thought no one was listening. The stories she'd tell about imaginary animals in the yard. And now, none of that mattered if I didn't get there in time. Finally, the house came into view. The lights of the driveway cut through the darkness, but it wasn't welcoming. It was terrifying. An ambulance was already parked outside, its red and blue lights slicing through the rain. I skidded the car to a stop and ran toward the paramedics. Lily was on a stretcher, her small body limp, skin pale and bluish. Her face was streaked with vomit, her hair plastered to her forehead. I froze for a moment, my chest tightening, unable to breathe. My hands trembled as I reached out, wanting to touch her, to feel her warmth, to know she was alive. Mia was there, sobbing uncontrollably, clinging to me. I called him so many times, she cried. He didn't answer. He didn't answer. Paramedics were moving quickly, connecting 4 lines, checking her vitals, talking about stabilizing her blood sugar. My mind was a storm of panic and rage. If the insulin had been given 30 minutes earlier, I whispered under my breath, unable to finish the thought. The words didn't matter. The realization alone cut me like a knife. 30 minutes, less than the time it took Ethan to finish one hand of poker, could have saved her. The door burst open and Ethan finally arrived, sloshing wet from the rain. He flung the insulin pen onto the gurney as if it were a trivial object, something disposable. You cost me $8,000, he snapped, eyes darting around to make sure everyone saw his irritation. I stared at him, unable to speak. The world seemed to shrink to a single unbearable point. This man, Lily's father, had placed money and ego above the life of his own child. Rage and grief collided inside me, a physical ache in my chest. The paramedics barely glanced at him as they worked, but I could see the shock and disapproval in their eyes. Voiceover, in that moment I realized some people lose money. Some lose their soul. The next day was a haze of exhaustion and numbness. I returned to the hospital early, hoping for updates, trying to keep my shaking hands busy. In the waiting room, a small envelope sat forgotten on a chair, the unmistakable shape of a phone. Ethan had left it behind. I hesitated for a heartbeat before picking it up, my gut telling me this would be the evidence I needed. Unlocking it using the old pin I remembered, I scrolled through messages. My stomach dropped as I read the exchanges between him and a friend at the casino during the critical hour when Lily was fading. She's exaggerating again. Lily will be fine, one read. Another, don't let her ruin the hand. She'll survive. Relax. Each word was a knife twisting deeper into my heart, proof that his neglect was deliberate, callous, almost celebratory. I captured screenshots, cataloged them meticulously, knowing that these words would form the backbone of our case. The realization was unbearable. Justice would only start when the truth was laid bare for all to see. 2 days later, Lily passed away. There was no dramatic fanfare, no heroic struggle left to witness. Just the sterile, flatline sound of the heart monitor echoing through the room. I held her tiny hand in mine, feeling the absence of warmth, the sudden and horrifying finality. Everything inside me wanted to scream, to rage against the unfairness, but no words could reach her now. She was gone and nothing, not the ambulance, not my frantic drive, not my own tears, could bring her back. The silence after the flatline was deafening. It was the kind of silence that filled every corner of a room. A silence that presses against your chest until you can barely breathe. I stared down at her small, still body, the tubes and monitors a cruel reminder of how close we had come, and how far we had fallen. Mia was beside me, her shoulder trembling under my hand, her eyes empty yet searching. We shared a look that didn't need words. 2 mothers broken by the same cruel circumstance, forced to confront the reality of a father's failure, and a system that had allowed it to happen. I didn't cry immediately. I couldn't. My mind was consumed with planning, with filing reports, with gathering evidence. Rage became purpose. Each text, each missed call, each photograph of Ethan's indifference became ammunition in the battle for accountability. Lily's voice, her laughter, her small, bright life would not vanish entirely, not if I could turn this anguish into action. And so began the long, painful journey to ensure that what happened to Lily would not happen to another child. Each piece of evidence, each legal consultation, each sleepless night was a promise whispered into the void. I will make this right. I will protect her light, even if she is no longer here. Her absence was a shadow that stretched across every part of my life. Yet within that darkness a resolve was born. A resolve that would carry me forward through grief, through confrontation, through the arduous pursuit of justice. Lily's fight did not end in that sterile hospital room. It had only begun, and I would be her voice when she could no longer speak for herself. The longest drive of my life ended not with relief or triumph, but with a determination so fierce it burned in my chest. And the texts I found on that forgotten phone, the cruel words that documented a father's choice, would become the undeniable proof that the reckoning had to come. Every call ignored, every laugh while a child lay dying, every casual dismissal of her existence was a thread woven into the tapestry of accountability I would build in her name. The world had shown me the depths to which someone could fail in the role of a parent. But it had also shown me the power of a mother's resolve. And in the quiet moments between grief and fury, I promised myself, Lily may be gone, but her light will guide every step I take. The days after Lily's passing were a blur of grief, fury, and a quiet burning determination. I returned to the apartment exhausted and hollow, yet each moment I sat in that silence only strengthened my resolve. Lily's life had been stolen by negligence, by the casual indifference of someone who claimed to be her father, and the world needed to know the truth. I couldn't undo what had happened, but I could ensure that Ethan Caldwell would be held accountable, and that no other child would fall victim to such recklessness. I contacted Sarah and Gwyn the morning after Lily's funeral. She was 42, meticulous and sharp, a lawyer whose reputation for handling wrongful death cases preceded her. When I explained the situation, her face tightened in a mix of outrage and determination, but she didn't flinch. "We will build a case, Jenny." Every call he ignored, every message, every choice he made to prioritize gambling over his daughter, it all counts. We will make sure it is seen. Over the next week, our lives became consumed by preparation. Sarah instructed me to gather everything. Screenshots from Ethan's phone, the photographs I had taken at the casino, and logs from Lily's insulin pump. The pump data alone was horrifying. 15 alerts that had been ignored while Lily's blood sugar soared. Each beep, each warning was a heartbeat that screamed for attention. And yet, Ethan chose to ignore them, choosing cards over his child's survival. I spent hours going through call records, noting the 47 calls I had made to Ethan that night, each one unanswered, each one a testament to his inaction. Every ignored call became a small nail in the coffin of his credibility. Sarah and I organized everything meticulously. Binders stacked on the conference table, each photo, each text, each log timestamped and annotated. It looked like a scene from a courtroom drama, every page a weapon in the pursuit of justice. Sarah printed photographs, highlighting the exact moment Ethan laughed at the table, the drink in one hand, cards in the other, neon lights casting shadows over his indifferent face. "This will speak louder than any words he might utter," she said. Her confidence was steadying, and for the first time since Lily's death, I felt a glimmer of hope. I had no desire for revenge. I didn't want to see him humiliated. I only wanted responsibility. The world needed to see the truth, and the law needed to recognize that a child's life cannot be treated as collateral for a man's ego or addiction. Justice, I realized, was not a spectacle of retribution. It was the acknowledgement that a failure of care carries consequences. Voiceover. Justice wasn't about revenge. It was about making sure no other mother screams like I did. The day of the trial arrived, heavy and suffocating with anticipation. Ethan entered the courtroom, his expression a mixture of arrogance and irritation, as if he were attending a minor inconvenience rather than facing the consequences of his actions. He tried immediately to turn the narrative against me. "Jenny should have been more prepared. She's a nurse, why didn't she bring extra insulin?" he said, his tone oozing condescension. I felt my stomach churn, but Sarah stood calm and precise. She began presenting the evidence we had meticulously collected. The photographs from the casino showing Ethan's laughter and casual demeanor while his daughter's life hung in the balance. The screenshots from his phone, messages dismissing the severity of Lily's condition. The insulin pump data, each alert ignored, each warning treated as inconsequential. Then came the moment that would shake the courtroom. Sarah called a witness, Jake, a young bartender at the casino. I hadn't met him before, but he appeared confident, almost defiant. On the stand, he testified that the management of the Cherokee Casino had been aware of Ethan's neglect that night. He boasted about ignoring her calls. "The managers knew," Jake said, his voice steady. "They didn't stop him because he's a VIP client." The courtroom went silent. Ethan's face drained of color, his arrogance evaporating in the wake of Jake's testimony. Every eye in the room seemed to sharpen on him, the gravity of his failure crystallizing. This was not a debate, it was a revelation. The evidence was indisputable. Throughout the proceedings, Sarah's strategy was methodical. She juxtaposed Ethan's dismissive messages against Lily's medical emergency, lining them up chronologically to show the direct cause and effect of his negligence. She highlighted the number of ignored calls, emphasized the 30 minutes that could have made the difference, and meticulously illustrated how his choices had led to Lily's death. The court watched, the jury leaned in, absorbing the cold truth. Ethan tried to interject, to cast blame elsewhere, to deflect responsibility, but his words fell flat against the mountain of evidence. I sat quietly, tears welling but restrained, knowing that every photograph, every text, every ignored alert was finally telling the story Lily never got to finish herself. After hours of testimony, deliberation, and the weight of irrefutable proof, the verdict came. The judge pronounced Ethan Caldwell guilty of negligent homicide. He was ordered to pay $100,000 in damages, placed on 2 years probation, required to enter a mandatory gambling rehabilitation program, and assigned 250 hours of community service in medical facilities to atone, in part, for the life he had failed to protect. I didn't feel triumphant. There was no elation, no victory that could replace the small warmth of my daughter's hand in mine. What I felt was relief that the truth was finally acknowledged, that the system had recognized that some failures carry the heaviest consequences. For the first time, the echoing absence left by Lily's death felt slightly less hollow because the world now knew what had happened. Walking out of the courthouse, I caught a glimpse of Ethan, subdued and stripped of his veneer, and I realized something profound. The law could hold him accountable, but it could never restore the moments lost, the laughter gone, the life stolen. Yet, in accountability there was a measure of justice. A reminder that choices have weight, that negligence is not invisible, that a child's life cannot be dismissed as inconsequential. Jake's courage in stepping forward, the meticulous work of Sarah, and the undeniable facts all converged to shine a light on the darkest night of my life. It was not vengeance I sought, it was acknowledgement, responsibility, and a precedent that could protect others. The courtroom, though sterile and formal, became a stage for truth, a platform where Lily's absence spoke louder than anyone's words could. As I left, the morning sun broke through the clouds, reflecting on the courthouse steps. It wasn't the brightness of victory. It was the quiet illumination of accountability. I thought about the future, about the changes that needed to happen to prevent such tragedies, about the children whose lives might be saved if the world paid attention. In that moment, I understood the fragile balance between care and neglect, between love and indifference, and between life and preventable death. Ethan's sentence was not enough to bring back Lily, but it was a declaration. Choices matter, negligence carries consequences, and accountability can echo even in the absence of the one most precious. Walking down the steps with Sarah beside me, I felt a strange mixture of sorrow and resolve. Sorrow for what was lost, and resolve to make Lily's light endure, even in the world that had taken her from me. I knew that this was only the beginning, not just of legal justice, but of a mission to protect others, to honor the life and memory of a child who deserved better than the man who was supposed to love her most. Money never mattered to me. After Lily's death, the compensation awarded in court felt hollow. A number on a piece of paper that couldn't breathe life back into her small, fragile body. I didn't want it for myself. I wanted it to mean something for her, to transform grief into purpose. That was when the idea for Lily's Light was born. I started with a vision. Small emergency insulin kits for children with type 1 diabetes, portable and easy to use, each one a literal lifeline. The design was simple but deliberate. On the outside of each box, a smiling illustration of Lily, her hair in tiny curls, eyes wide with the mischief and wonder she had carried throughout her short life. Below her image, the words read, "Be ready. Stay safe." Each kit contained insulin pens, syringes, glucose tablets, and step-by-step instructions for emergencies. The goal was clear. No parent, no child, should face the terror of a sudden insulin failure alone. I coordinated with local hospitals and pediatric clinics to identify families who could benefit the most. Nurses and caregivers were trained to use the kits, and informational brochures were distributed to schools. Every time a parent called to thank me, I felt a fragment of Lily's presence, her light reaching beyond the limits of her life, touching others in ways I never could have imagined. But I didn't stop there. The tragedy had exposed a systemic gap. Casino employees, even in high-profile establishments like Cherokee, were unprepared to respond to emergencies involving children. I contacted lawmakers, shared our story, and advocated for a regulation that would mandate casinos in Georgia to implement emergency alert protocols when children are at risk. The legislation passed after months of testimony, inspections, and advocacy. Now, every casino employee is trained to recognize critical child health emergencies and report them immediately to authorities. It was a long, painstaking process, and not a day passed without remembering Lily. Yet, despite the sorrow, there was purpose, and purpose brought a measure of peace. Voiceover. It didn't bring her back, but it made her light reach others. Some mornings I meet Mia at the little cafe we've come to call ours, a quiet place with worn wooden tables and soft morning sunlight spilling through the windows. The smell of fresh coffee mingles with the warmth of shared memories, a small comfort in the shadow of what we lost. We talk about Lily, her laugh that could fill a room, the soft hum of her voice when she sang to herself, the way the fabric of her tiny blue dress swirled around her legs when she twirled in the garden. Sometimes we fall silent, letting our thoughts linger on her image. The sunlight through the glass seems to catch just right, as if it illuminates the memory of her somewhere in the room, watching us, still present in spirit. There's grief, yes, but there is also gratitude. Gratitude that her life, though brief, has left ripples that extend far beyond what she could have imagined. And in those moments I reflect on the night that changed everything. The night I saw a father fail, completely and irreparably. I remember the helplessness, the fury, the despair. But I also remember the choice I made to fight, to channel every ounce of grief into action. That fight has given me a way to honor her, to protect other children, to create a legacy that is bigger than pain. Voiceover softly with a mix of sorrow and quiet strength. When I saw Ethan ignore those calls, I witnessed a father fail beyond repair. But when I chose to fight, I learned what real love does. It protects even after death. Mia reaches over and we hold hands across the table, a gesture of shared loss and shared resilience. And as the sunlight glances off the window, I feel, just for a moment, that Lily is there too, smiling at us, urging us to keep moving forward, to keep her light alive in the lives of others. We sip our coffee, sharing stories and memories, and the world outside the cafe seems slightly gentler, touched by the quiet persistence of a mother's love and the enduring brightness of a child who will never be forgotten. I've learned some hard truths through the darkness that followed Lily's death. Truths that I carry with me every day. Not every person who claims the title of parent truly deserves it. Some fail in ways that cannot be excused, leaving scars that last a lifetime. I witnessed that failure firsthand, and it is a weight that no mother should ever have to bear. Silence from the system, from institutions meant to protect, can cost a child their life. If the warnings had been heeded, if someone had acted, Lily might still be here. That reality is searing. A reminder that vigilance and accountability are not optional. They are necessary. Love, I've come to understand, is not just a feeling. Love is showing up, especially when it is difficult, inconvenient, or uncomfortable. It is choosing responsibility over distraction, presence over selfishness, and care over convenience. True love acts, even in the smallest ways, because inaction can have devastating consequences. Turning pain into purpose became my only way forward. Justice is not simply punishment. It is transformation. It is ensuring that a tragedy does not happen again, that the loss of one child becomes the protection of many others. Through Lily's light, through advocacy and education, Lily's life continues to create change, continuing her story in a way she could not herself. And perhaps the most enduring lesson: a child's light never truly dies. It moves, it spreads, it finds new homes to shine in. Every smile saved, every life protected, every heart touched by her memory is a continuation of Lily's own brilliance. If Lily's story touched you, share this video to raise awareness for children living with diabetes. Subscribe to this channel for more true stories that remind us, even in tragedy, humanity still matters.